want to go into the tools, right? ArmorWall is a new technology, it's a new product. It does a lot for you in the design stage, but we always like to show some relation to how day-to-day install and common products are used and how we relate to them. So a couple of the tools that we're gonna need a saw to be able to cut the panel. Because the armor board sheathing has a structural component and quality to it and density, you wouldn't be able to cut it with, let's say, a precision knife. However, you can use any type of saw to just be able to do your cuts. In this particular case, I'm holding a circular saw. As to what type of blade, you can use any type of blade. If you were to ask me for my preference, I always like a carbide or a diamond tip blade. They'll cut a little bit smoother, they last a little bit longer in the field. However, it's not something you would need, just a regular saw would do. Another big tool that we would need, the great and fancy sausage gun. Now, we'll get into, like I said, the component and accessories a little bit later, but we do have a sealant accessory for our ArmorWall system. That comes in 20-ounce sausages, right? So we're gonna use a sausage gun. The type of application, nothing dissimilar to any other sealant application. We wanna go in a zigzag fashion. Once we apply it or tool it on the wall, we do like to see 35 mils of wet sealant before it cures. Plus minus 5 mils. We like to give you a little bit of leeway there. But keep in mind, just 35 mils of the sealant wet when applied. How do you apply it? With a typical sausage gun. Again, you ask my preference. I'd rather have a motorized one that does all the work for me, but regular gun works just as well. Focusing on the sealant, something else that we need are gonna be our putty knives or trowels. Again, to apply or tool the sealant onto the wall. Now here's a good stopping point because I always like to mention one of the big pros or value propositions of ArmorWall is that it encompasses a lot of layers of your exterior wall, right? So it cuts down on materials, it cuts down on labor, it cuts down or it increases speed. However, it also gives the opportunity for contractors or installers to be able to tackle some scopes of work on the exterior wall that they typically don't. Good example is, if you were to take a commercial drywall builder, right? They're used to installing some type of substrate, typically metal studs, and some type of common sheet good on the market. Well, they can go ahead and install ArmorWall. However, they also get the opportunity to be able to tackle the building envelope, enclosing that building envelope. And it would include our sealant, which sometimes they're not typically used to installing. So with an approach like that, what we like to do at DuPont is that we like to be a little bit proactive. So not only can you use a typical trowel or putty knife, we will also 3D print for you a sealant applicator. And the cool thing about this is that it'll give you the right width of sealant that we require or expect to see as a finished product, as well as the right millage. So for those newer installers or people that are a little bit inexperienced, we got your back. We ultimately want to be able to support you just so you have the best finished product possible. Moving on, another tool that we're gonna need is a good old insulation knife. What do we use it for? It's a good stopping point in this conversation. We're gonna use it for the outside corners and how we finish our outside corners. I'm gonna bring two little props here just so you can see. How do we treat our outside corners? Well, what we do is we use a weave approach or installation practice. This gives us two, in my opinion, two really good advantages. One, cuts out all the craftsmanship. So you don't have to focus on a specific finish aesthetic. Once you have your wall installed. Two, it makes a very easy, continuous, what I call fire plane. So for your fire requirements, there's nothing special or no new accessory that you need to put to be able to have a continuous firewall or fire plane along your exterior wall once you finish. If we zoom in right here real quick, we can zoom in, we can see how do we achieve that. All we do is that we're gonna notch out and cut out with the insulation knife. We're gonna cut out the depth the insulation, we're going to cut it out at the depth of the adjacent panel. In this particular case, just like I have here, we have a 2-inch panel. So all we're going to do is we're going to cut out the insulation 2 inches deep, and then we just butt, like I showed, the panels together. So that's all we need that tool for. And again, removes all the craftsmanship, sets up the installer for success. Lastly, very important tool that we use is going to be our drills, right? Now our drills is another good stopping point to focus on a little bit. What do we allow for our sheathing fasteners, which we're going to get on a little bit later on. For our sheathing fasteners, we allow either an impact drill, a typical your common drill or a deck gun that you can adjust its RPMs. I always give or preface by saying an impact drill will wear out your sheathing fasteners a little bit faster. It's not a component of our fasteners, it's just mechanically how the impact drill works. But as long as the installer is aware of that, they could just go ahead and use it and have the install. Again, we try to set them up for success. In case of our cladding fasteners, which we're gonna get on a little bit later, but let me just focus here real quick. We have Ludovici, it's a terracotta tile, it's one of our partners for cladding. You can see one of our fasteners there. For cladding fasteners, we do not allow the impact drill. So that's a good takeaway from this conversation. We're gonna allow the regular drill or a deck gun that you can adjust to its RPMs to 2000 RPMs.